How did you get this sweet gig at Fox Sports?
Well, I was born and raised in Madison, and as you said, we're co-Edgewood alums. So went to Edgewood High School, and then went to Marquette University, where I was a journalism and Spanish major. And with my dad being, the head football coach at Edgewood, I grew up around sports. I was always around it. I played a bunch of sports growing up, so I knew that working in sports was something that I wanted to do, and wanted to be in media in some way.
Yeah, and it's such a competitive field to break into. It seems like so many people would want your job. What kind of separated you? And I think if I remember correctly, did you go from Marquette to doing like high school football or something locally, and then you kind of got a big break? How did that all happen?
Yeah, so it was really my junior year at Marquette. I had the opportunity to meet Rob King from ESPN, and at the time he was the editor-in-chief of ESPN.com. He now runs all of SportsCenter for ESPN. But anyway, he made a presentation at Marquette. I was able to connect with him, and I told him I was really interested in doing the ESPN internship program. So he set me up with the right people, and ultimately I was offered a position for their summer internship in Bristol, Connecticut. So I did my semester abroad in Madrid, Spain through Marquette, and then I came back and I interned at ESPN, and that was like really sealed the deal for me for TV. And it was kind of like I went backwards. Like I started at the worldwide leader, and you see SportsCenter and Baseball Tonight and College Football Live, and you work with all these incredibly talented people who are at like the top level. And then you figure out like, okay, I'm gonna have to go all the way back and work your way back up to that level. So what was great about doing high school sports and even Division III college sports is that it's entirely up to you to like get that information. You really have to dig. I was learning to like, cold call coaches and athletic directors, and even at the games, like finding parents in the stands or talking to trainers on the sidelines. Like you had to learn to get all of that information on your own because there's not a PR department, there's not a media guide, that information isn't provided for you. So you really have to create those relationships and get that information on your own. So that was ultimately the best way for me to learn. And I was able to get a lot of repetition on camera without it being, on ESPN. So even if, to me, it didn't matter like how many people were watching, I was at least getting the experience on camera. That was enough for me.
What is the biggest challenge of being a female sports reporter in a male-dominated industry?
That's a good, tough question. I think, honestly, I feel that there's like a smaller margin of error. I think I've definitely felt this at the beginning of my career. I had struggled with this like perfectionist nature where you felt like you were going to be unfairly criticized if you made a mistake. Or there's that perception of like, oh, she's only on TV because she's a woman or whatever. So I think that was something that I really struggled with early on, was just you want to be respected, you want to be heard, you want to be treated the same as your male colleagues. You don't want it to be about, oh, she's a female reporter. You just want to be a reporter. You just want to be taken seriously for your work, respected for that, and that's what it's always been about for me. The work is solid and it stands on its own.
What was that opening day like? I mean, the last time you were doing it was at a high school game, and all of a sudden you're in front of, 50,000-ish people.
Yeah, it was crazy. I mean, it was one of those moments where you're like, wow, like all of that was worth it because you feel like you've reached a level that like you wanted to do. When I was a senior at Marquette, it was 2008, and it was the year that the Brewers won the wild card. So when I was interning, I was helping out with all of that coverage, and I was actually, on the field when they clinched that last game and helping out with all the post-game celebration and the interviews and all of that. And it was one of those moments where you're like, this is what I want to do. Like, I'm in the right place. This is what I want to do. And so to be doing it now, it's just so cool because these are the teams that I grew up watching.